Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and as the founder of the Bold Life Movement and a fellow coach for more than 7 years, I know the challenges that many of you face when launching or growing your coaching business. And I'm here to pull back the curtain on the coaching industry and help you overcome roadblocks to make the impact you were born to make. Each week, I'll be interviewing successful coaches from every corner of the industry to share exactly how they have managed to generate massive impact and income. From strategy to psychology, we cover it all. This show is presented to you by Transformation Academy, a global marketplace of courses and coaching certifications. So whether you are already part of our epic community or you're brand new to this show, if you're ready to learn what it takes to turn your passion for service into a profitable business, then keep listening. You are in the right place. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. On today's episode, I have with me Paige Harris-Clark, who is a hypnotherapist coach and retreat specialist. Paige has hosted dozens of retreats since launching her coaching business and has done thousands of coaching sessions. You heard that right, thousands. So now I have Paige with me today to share some of her secrets for both filling retreats and attracting clients. It's likely not what you think. We also talk about how to move through those inevitable roadblocks that will come up on your journey to becoming a successful coach. I think Paige is a treasure trove of insight and information on how to be your most authentic self in your coaching business. So if you're ready to dive in, then let's get started. Please welcome the beautiful Paige Clark to the show. Welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm super stoked today to have Paige Harris-Clark on with me. She is a dear friend, a phenomenal coach, and someone that I think of as such an inspiration. So I'm really grateful to have her perspective on what it means to be a coach and some of the things that hold people back from stepping into their fullest potential as coaches. So Paige, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. So first I want to kick off by just letting people understand, what are the different modalities that you have dabbled in over the years as a coach or a practitioner, and how did you come to add those to your arsenal?
Nice. Well, I started out as a hypno babies instructor. So I actually did hypnosis for birth and helped women have pain-free birth through somnambulistic hypnosis for about 8 years. And then when I went into the coaching industry, I just did pure business coaching. I have a finance background. So I was doing that, but then I realized, why am I working on this conscious level, which is like the tip of the iceberg, when I could be working with that subconscious mind a lot more? And I knew hypnosis was so powerful. And so I decided to integrate that into my coaching business. And so that's why I do hypnosis now. And I do tapping. I do a lot of somatic stuff and everything else, but it's a lot of, it'd be 80% the subconscious work, and then we kind of zipper up the conscious. But yeah, I kind of just dabble in a lot of things. And then I'm a yoga instructor and a retreat specialist. So I do all of the aspects of retreats. But that is part of my coaching business as well. So yeah, it's just all really fun. I do yoga Thai massage. I do kind of draw in all these kind of woo-woo, yummy. Whenever I can learn something new, I do bring it into the art of what I do. But those are the main things, are the yoga aspect of psychology, and then the hypnosis and the subconscious work is for the coaching aspect of things.
So one thing that I want to highlight about what you just said is that the evolution of adding all of these different modalities and different ways of serving your clients, those sort of came with time. It wasn't like you started out serving people super holistically. There was a focus, which was the hypnobirthing. And so can you speak to any notion around niching down? Because this is a really common topic for new coaches, the pressure to niche down and why you did or didn't do it and how it panned out for you.
I would say no. I hate that. That whole concept is so hard for me. It's so hard. I will go, I'm like, you asked me a question on a podcast. No, I'm not going to answer that. No, but I find it so difficult. And one of the best advice I got from Mandy Perry actually was niche down into your launch. So when I'm doing a launch, like right now I'm doing a launch with Allison Armstrong. So it's all about relationships. So my niche right now is relationships between men and women, right? And I can get pretty niche down into that. But at other times it's I've niched into weight loss, and I've done a whole program around that, and done hypnosis for that, right? So I've done course classes and retreats around specific things like parenting. Or so for me, that's as close as a niche I can get. And I wish that I could get more of a niche, because I know it's important for online marketing for sure.
So you answered it perfectly.
You get. And if you want to get really, really big and build a multi-million-dollar business, you have to niche down. And I know that. And I honestly, to like be totally perfectly honest, I just haven't done that well.
And yet you've been able to make a living from coaching over the years. So I asked that intentionally because I know that you have dabbled in multiple niches, as have I. And I think that your answer was perfect. What Mandy Perry said is perfect and coincides with something that I heard from Brendan Burchard, which is like niche in terms of the specific marketing that you're doing or the specific launch. Like for everything that you're offering, let that be kind of a focused topic or target market. And that way you're using the messaging that people know you're speaking directly to them and the pain that they have and the desire that they want to achieve. But to just say, I'm a coach and leave it at that,
it will absolutely not make you money online.
Yeah, exactly.
You can go and have one-on-one conversations with individuals and sell yourself to what their need right now is. I can have those, like if I can get someone into a one-on-one conversation, but no, if I'm going to build my business into an online successful, I'm getting clients funneling into me without me having to meet them one-on-one and have a conversation with them, then I absolutely have to niche. Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. I heard you say, if I can get them in the door and we're already having a one-on-one conversation, then I can hear what their specific needs are and position myself accordingly to say like, yeah, I'm a good fit for this. I can probably help them. What happens before that? How are you getting in front of these people to even have that one-on-one conversation? Because I think this is the thing that holds a lot of new coaches back. They're not putting themselves out there and like getting market research, getting in front of people. So how does that happen?
Well, I want to backstep a little bit because I've coached so many coaches that they know they even have a niche. They even have a really amazing product. They have something that's definitely sellable, but they start going into the bogs of getting an email, getting the marketing, getting their logo, So my first advice to new coaches that know that they have something is to just start getting on the phone and get your first clients. Like there's nothing in between you and your first client than the phone. And if you try to start coaching by building out a whole online site, it's like getting a marketing team before you've tried out your message, right? So
before you know that there's a product fit.
Exactly. So no one thinks that they can become a coach if they don't know 5 people that they know they could help right now. And free coaching doesn't work, in my opinion. The other person doesn't have any buy-in and doesn't have anything on the line. So just go in, say, hey, what's your problem? What's getting in the way? What do you want? And here are the ways that I can help you. And this is the process, right? So you want to figure out your package and those kind of things. But now to go back to your question,
which is how you said, get people on the phone. A lot of new coaches are like, but how? if I'm not building my website, if I'm not posting on social media every day, all the things they think is how you get clients, how do I get them on the phone? How do I have that conversation? So can you answer that?
You look at everyone you know and you say, and you start calling people. I mean, we make it because it's such a tech age. We think that everything has to be online. You have to become an influencer on TikTok and those are great ways to build. But what I'm saying is to start a coaching business, like when I started coaching, I got my certification and then my coach got on the phone with me on a 3-way call and we got my first $3,000 client. That was my first call that I made. And so, get your own coach. Every coach needs a coach. So 100% go get a coach, but
Yeah.
have your coach help you to get your first client. It's not about get your coach to teach you, go find someone to teach you the whole marketing system of coaching. Like that was one of my problems. I bought into a huge year-long program to launch your business when I didn't really have my business figured out, right? Like go get a certification so that you can say, hey, I'm a certified coach, and you have those kind of things. Set up your LLC. But then after that, just get on the phone and you say, who's going to help? Well, who has the problem that you're solving? And then call them, right? And then when you have your first client, then you can say, with my client today, I did this. It's anonymous. It's not, but it's, like
It's
what I
social
realized,
proof.
there's social proof, but it's also like giving you content every time you have a session. Like you can write a blog post or you can get on for 30 seconds on TikTok and say, here's the problem that coaching solves. Boom. This is why you need a coach. So you can start to build from there, but you can't start building a coaching business without a first client. From my experience, my perspective, and how I coach my clients.
What would you say to the individuals who feel really called to serve? They feel really called to coach, but they're not super clear on what the result is that they're able to offer.
Then get a first client. Like I'm a broken record, but like if they have something that helps people, then go out and help people and see what results people are getting. I just think that you probably do know what you can help people with, right? And so for marketing, you do have to figure out what's the problem, what's the solution that I provide.
Yeah.
And one of the best things I did is I sold coaching packages for other clients. So I started out in selling packages. So I saw, and I basically just did the sales process of what do you want? What's getting in your way? And here's the solution, which is the coach's coaching package. No matter what coach I was selling for, I knew that I could sell to their problem because basically everyone has the same similar problems. It's either mind, body, or spirit. It's either that they're stuck in some way, right? Like it's just so, if you have 1,000 conversations with 1,000 different people, so not everyone can do that, but everyone can get into conversations. One other hack is to just call your friends and say, hey, if you had a coach or if you had a health coach, like what would the 3 things you'd want help with be? So start doing some market research around what people are wanting. And then you go, oh, I could do that. Oh, I can definitely help with that, right? Like if you're wanting to be a coach, you're a person that solves problems.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of new coaches, at least what I'm seeing, what people are like coming to me with their hesitations is having it be messy in the beginning. They want to have it all figured out. They want to know the plan. They want to know what's going to happen after they take each step. And that's just not how market research works. That's not how getting your feet wet works. It's not how practicing being a coach works. And so really being comfortable with learning as you go. And like you said, reaching out to your network. I mean, I'm going to repeat what you said because I thought it was so good. Ask your friends, if you had a coach, what would be the 3 things that you would get them to help you with? And then you're immediately hearing like, oh, where are people stuck? Where are the patterns where people are stuck. And do I know how to help them overcome that? If I don't, can I figure it out? Is that something I want to do repeatedly? Great. Now I know what I coach on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you get stuck, ask your coach, right? Like we have the people around us, use the people around you. And there's just the issue isn't not having the information. But what
Yeah.
I have found with coaching, I was a competitive athlete, and I always think of like how athletes um are never win if they don't have a good coach. Like you could never go, I'm going to win a tennis tournament, but just watch YouTube and read books about tennis. Like I have to have that coach that says, okay, lift your wrist, turn the grip, raise your elbow, right? I just can't do it. And no one can become high level in any music, anything else without a coach. And so to have a coach with you to go, oh yeah, this 5 millimeter shift will get you there faster and easier. So it's always the words that I always use in coaching is I just help you get there faster and easier. Right?
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah. I was talking to a friend this morning about, his business and not really having clarity in it at this moment. And I mean, the thing I keep going back to is like, do you have a coach? Do you have a mastermind? Because we can have the desire to do it on our own, and we can think that maybe we're like saving money by doing it on our own. But ultimately, over time, we're not, because we're wasting a lot of time spinning our wheels, not getting clarity, not putting ourselves in the arena. And ultimately, time is money. Like you could have had new clients, you could have had products sold, whatever your business is. And so I think that at the core, coaches should have coaches. It's a matter of like, you wouldn't take fitness advice from someone who wasn't working out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And do you believe in your product? Like,
Yeah.
right? It just,
And you will believe more in your product the more you coach, the more you practice.
and the more you get coached.
Yeah, exactly.
The more
Yeah.
the more I work with my coach, the more I'm like, oh man, I would have stayed in that cycle for 4 weeks and I got out of it. And thank goodness I had a weekly coaching session, and 2 days later I got out of it,
Yeah.
like just, it's so, it is, I think. And you even see this, the counseling or therapists is so much more accepted now. And I just think everyone's going to have a coach in some way. We always get coaches for our children, but adults somehow stop hiring coaches for themselves, like
Yeah.
no parent is say, just teach yourself piano. I mean, some are now, especially with YouTube, but just teach yourself to play tennis and get on the collegiate tennis team. No parent ever said that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's a good point, because for people who are just coming into this industry, it could feel really saturated and like, there's so many coaches. How will I ever stand out? But to your point, more and more people are open to coaching than ever before.
Yeah.
And because of something like the internet, it is easier than ever before to reach people that you would never otherwise get exposed to. I mean, I have people in the current Quantum Leap boot camp that are literally in Europe, India, South Africa, like all over the world, which if I had gone out in the local community, a great way to get clients, by the way, great guerrilla marketing, but I wouldn't be able to reach those individuals. So looking at everything that's happening currently in the coaching ecosystem as an opportunity and not an excuse.
I
really
love
important.
that. Yeah. And that is, so this brings up a point of just like, it's in sports, in business, in being an entrepreneur, in being a coach, it all comes down to mindset. And, like it's going to be sales or mindset. That's just like the two things that basically everything boils down to. And there is an element of like, probably about once a month or every 2 months, I go, I should just go get a job. Like
it's easier.
It's like a mind game, right? That you just
Yes.
go like, oh, like I did my lunch and it's all great. And then something else, you're just like, like I think it'll be easier just to go get a job and get a paycheck. And so there's this is part of it is having a coach or having your own processes and doing the work yourself. And I think the most off-putting part of this industry is coaches that are coaching people to do things that they're not willing to do or don't even understand, but they like are reading it in a book, or they're just like, when you're creating your coaching business, create it around something that you own, that is
Mm.
like in your bones, that you've mastered, that and I love it when coaches are going into the industry because they're like, yeah, I rocked it. I made $1 million over there. I started this, or I healed my gut, or I,
Mm-hmm.
work out and have went from 200 pounds down to 150 or whatever it is. Like that's cool. And that's where we want people to go into where they are truly masters in. And that's
Yeah.
where we can all just lift each other up and thrive so much.
Yeah, I talk about how there are three types of experts. I learned this from Brendan
Yeah.
Burchard, just to
Yeah.
give credit where credit's due. There's the expert who has gotten results for themselves, which is kind of what you were just talking about. The
Yeah.
expert who has gotten the results for others. And then the expert who has done a lot of research and is incredibly learned on how to get these results. And I think that while all of them are equally valuable and good to know so that you can overcome imposter syndrome if you're maybe 2 or 3 and not number 1. I still think that there's something to be said for the sort of gusto that you bring to your coaching when it's something you've done for yourself, because the the energy behind the transformation and the inherent confidence that you have because you know this has worked for you, like you are a different person because of this process that you now take people through. It's just going to have a different frequency than like the passion that I can bring for having gotten those results for other people. Still, I mean, I'm still super passionate about it, but it's not the same as like, this changed my life, you know?
Yeah.
And so
And
I think that's really
and I
important.
do think in all three of those, there's a certain amount of ownership. Like I think of professors, university
Mm-hmm.
professors, where they know the information on a deeper level than even people that have experienced it, because they've studied 25 people that have experienced it on the deeper level to understand it better than they even understand it,
Yeah.
right? Or
Expert number
um,
3.
yeah, that's expert number 3. But the second one, if I've helped like my dad, he's probably coached like 30 national champions, right? He's a national champion, but even if he wasn't a national champion, if he had produced, then he 100% like keep coaching,
Totally.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but it's something about like when you own something in your body and like it's just, I love when, someone's come from corporate America and they own the material in such a deep way that they're just like, hire me and we'll go places. Just
Mm-hmm.
own it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that speaks to something that I was talking about in another interview with Juan Bandana is confidence. Do
Mm.
whatever it takes to be the most confident coach you can be. And that's going to look different than it does for other people. So step 1 is probably going to be start coaching. Step 2, maybe you have some physiology exercises that you're doing, some mindset work that you're doing with your coach. Maybe starting to go to Toastmasters so you get comfortable speaking. Like whatever your thing is, make confidence and a good mindset like the top priority, because everything else falls into place if those things are like solid.
I love that. I do want to go back to just like the the timeline of things, because when I started out, I was like, I don't know. I think I know enough stuff to help people. Like my friends talk to me a lot about stuff, and I think I helped them a lot. And I had coaching before.
Yeah.
And then I got my first client and I was like, oh my gosh, someone paid me $3,000 and I have to coach her now. And like every week I'm getting on the call. So at that point, I was a yoga instructor, didn't really help with like business coaching. So before each call, I would literally jump up and down and do this affirmation thing that I got from Tony Robbins. And I would be so pumped by the time I got on the call. I was like, hi, but it was like my brain was like blowing up with positivity,
Yeah.
And so
yeah, we call it getting in state at Tony Robbins.
Getting in state. Yeah. And I was way into Tony Robbins at the time, going to events like every second month. And it was just so great. It was a really good time to begin. And so, yeah, that's such great advice. I love that so much. And just last week, I was going in for a really big contract that I could take on, and I was nervous about it and everything else. And the advice from my coach was just like, go in with absolute certainty and confidence. And because what do you focus on, right? And I was focusing on, well, what if this, or I'm not sure about this. And it was like, no, focus on what you absolutely can deliver. And as I focused on that, it was like perfect, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to know more about how you overcome those periods of doubt that pop up, or the periods of, I should just get a job. Like, entrepreneurship is tough, and so it takes a level of resiliency. So what are your processes for remembering that you are resilient and soldiering on?
Well, the immediate thought is morning routine. Like, I coach about it. I do it, and I do savers, Hal Elrod's. I mean, it's just the easiest thing for me. But
can you articulate what that is for anyone who's not familiar?
Yeah. So it's silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribe writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my own version of that, and it can take 6 minutes or 60 minutes, but I do it every day. And and it's funny because I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh yeah, how do I start this? Oh yes. Oh yeah, it's silence. Oh. And just the stillness comes in. But why do I still have to think of the acronym? But it's weird. I still do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so that's why I love the acronym. It's just like, I know exactly what to do each morning. And even sometimes I'm like, I didn't get my exercise in and it's 11, but I still get it. And I make sure that every day I get my savers in. So, so basically what I'm saying is, in 24 hours, I'll get out of my slumps because I have my systems in place to get out. And if I don't, I call my coach. So
having support.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is preemptively have something to get you through the roadblocks. Don't try and get through a roadblock using the brain that got you into the roadblock. Like, already have a system in place, whether that's a person, like a coach, or a process that you move through to get you back into alignment.
Yeah. So the silence is so beautiful, right? Because you can be spinning, but if you just let go and you see those spin and you just let it go. And then the affirmations will remind me who I am. And I love my affirmations.
Me too.
I love them. I know it's so cheesy and whatever, but I'm like, I don't know. I turn them on and I start believing them, and they work for me. So I don't care.
It must be because we come, or I imagine, I hallucinate that it could be, we both have a Tony Robbins background. And so we're anchored into a very powerful state whenever we start doing affirmations or incantations, because anytime I'm in the habit of doing them, my life is on fire. I feel amazing. Yeah. Everything's awesome. And when I'm not, it's not necessarily
we start to believe our the other part of our shoulder. There's the devil and the angel kind of on the shoulders, but that's what I love about tapping. That's another thing that I'll do is I'll tap and I'll first let the devil talk. So I'll be like, I hate this. This is the worst. I'm so frustrated. Why am I still doing this? What if it all comes crumbling down? Da, 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 da. And I'll just tap and I'll let myself say all the stuff and give that a voice almost. And then I'll be negative, positive. So tapping, it kind of just I don't know, it kind of lets stuff out of my body. But that's another thing I do when I get into that place is I'll tap myself. There's tons of awesome tapping stuff online. If you just look up tapping for, entrepreneurs, I'm sure there's like 50 tapping. I mean, there's just so many cool things out there. But for
Can
me,
you
I just
speak to
like
it
to
a little
see
bit
what
for
tapping
people who,
is.
yeah, like I bet half the audience right now is very familiar with tapping, but I'm confident that not everyone's heard of what EFT or tapping is.
Right. So it's emotional freedom technique, and it's a way of tapping on meridian points, which are basically pools of blood on the energies. Like there's thousands of these all throughout the body, but they're kind of mini chakras, and they're energy centers that collect blood, but also hold energy. So if you're tired or you're trying to remember something, often we'll tap our forehead just naturally. Or we're trying to remember something, or we're contemplating something, we'll bring our fingers just below our eyes, or just below our chin, right? Or we're astonished at something, we touch our heart, we hit our collarbone. So we naturally actually hit these powerful meridian points that can release energy. And so what these scientists have found is if you tap on these points and say different things to ourselves, we can release energy and release those thoughts even, and reinstate thoughts that are more true. So I will just kind of tap and say, I deeply and completely accept myself, even though I'm feeling all these awful feelings. And then I'll tap on the meridian points above my eyes, to the side of my eyes, under my eyes, these places. And I'll just if you don't know all the places, you can even just do your chest, the sternum, and you just tap, and that tapping releases, but it also kind of keeps your attention on what you're doing. And you just say, I'm so upset. And you say the things that are upsetting you. And then I like to, at a certain point, you can start to almost coach yourself and let the white angel start to talk and say, but it may be okay. What if it isn't? Well, I've survived worse things. Yeah, that's true. But what if this time it's the worst of all times? It's like, yeah, but it probably won't be, And then you get
Yeah.
to a point where like, actually, I'm a super powerful person. Or actually, I've got amazing people in my life, like Kim Rich, And then be like, yeah, it's going to be okay. Actually, I'm just going to call Kim. Oh, yeah. Okay. I feel good now. Okay. It's all going to be okay, right? Yeah. You got this. You got this.
Yeah.
You got this. So that's kind of how I explain it. But it's a super powerful thing, especially when you're in a triggered state. That's where I use it with my clients, is like if we get on a call and they're in the place, that's where we use it.
Love that. So I want to make sure that we get into your retreat hosting experience a little bit, because I think that it's likely a lot of coaches listening have aspirations of hosting their own retreat, or maybe they have hosted a retreat, but they weren't really able to make it profitable or to fill it. And so I would love to hear what your journey has been with that, and how you overcome any fears that may come up about filling the retreats and things like that.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go way back to when
Take us back, Paige.
I was about 3 years old, and I told my mom that I wanted a cake this big. And she made it. It was like an angel food cake, and it was taller than me. And I think at that moment I decided parties are my jam. Like, I love parties. Because since then I have put on probably hundreds of parties. But then I got into this coaching space, and I was like, okay, there's a space for me in this place where there are these retreats where awesome people come together and they all want to have a cool experience, and I can teach yoga and I can do the food because I know how to cook for I just did a reunion with 54 people and I did all the food for so I just know how to feed lots of people and healthy, delicious food. And so I just love, I know the sales of it. I know the, organizational aspects of it. And so I just thought, I'm going to do this. And so it's been so fun putting on, it's my thing. And I realized that it's not everyone's thing. Like, a lot of people don't like that. And that's an overwhelming part of the coaching industry or the coaching experience for people, or they just don't do it because they don't want to figure out all the logistics. And it's something that I can kind of just, it's energizing. Like every single aspect of it is super energizing for me. So I love to do it. And I have a lot of this, I've figured out all the systems. So it's the plug and play, but then the fun of it is figuring out what your theme, what your, idea, what your topics are and all the things that you want your clients to get out of it. And then kind of running with that. So I help a lot of people put on their own retreats, and I put on my own retreats that are, happen about 3 to 4 times a year. This is my own retreats.
And so 2 things stood out from what you just said. One is that you love it. You love the whole process. It lights you up. And because it lights you up, that is likely what attracts a lot of people to these events, because you're in the frequency of like, I'm throwing this cool thing and I would love to have you. And who doesn't want to opt in for that, right? So if you're listening to this and you resent a lot of this process, I would say don't do it all like Paige does. Outsource the parts that you don't like and do the parts that light you up. Because if you're in the frequency of resentment or stress or fear, it's going to be hard to fill it, even if you're like doing all the things sales wise. So that's one. Sure. And then 2, you said that you have on a more like 3D level, what are some of the techniques that you've used to fill the retreats? So you've had so many over the years. How have you not like tapped out your market or your network, and you still are able to keep filling them?
I think that's the time when I'm like, I should just go get a job about 2 or 3 weeks before the retreat when it's not full. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be so life-changing. I can't believe it's not totally packed. So this is the hardest part about doing a retreat, is filling it for me. And I keep thinking, if I can hack this and figure out how to fill retreats like that, then that's where my millions are, because I think that there's that place where people are doing things that are so cool. And there's something about being in person and connecting and do it that's just unlike anything else. So the experience is like a guarantee. Mm-hmm. It's just getting people to leave their lives and pay the money and do everything. So, but how I do it is it's word of mouth. I mean, I'm still an old school marketer. I still call people. I still it's the individual texts. It's the messages. I do have retreats.com that I've used. Yogaretreats.com. There's different. I'm on healme.com that I have my stuff on. So I do have my stuff everywhere. I create an Eventbrite. I have a page on Facebook, an event page. So there's always some people that find me through these things. But the majority of people that come are because they know me. They know the work I do. It's my clients. It's my clients' friends. It's my sister's friends. It's the people that know me, that have experienced my work, and that know that the delivery is there, right?
Yeah.
So it is like the people that I collaborate to do retreats with, it's people that have a client base, and they have people that know that they deliver and they want to meet in person. And so like if you have a group like that, if you don't know anyone that would come to your retreat, don't planning a retreat. It'll feel awful, Yes. But if you have like 20 people that would come if you created, and I guarantee only 15 or 12 would come, but still, if you have 20 that are hell yeses, mm-hmm. then definitely let's create something and like definitely reach out if you're looking at finding someone to hire. But there's also catering and the things that feel overwhelming to you can outsource, and it's really not as hard as it seems when you see it as the big picture. If you have something to deliver, it's just really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And so 2 things that I want to highlight, because they go hand in hand with what we teach at Transformation Academy, is collaborations. We're really big proponents of JVs. It's a strong tool that Joelle and Natalie used to grow Transformation Academy over the years. And And I think it's underutilized. People are too scared to ask someone if they can like get on one of their newsletters or invite them onto their own, because they're like, who am I? I don't have as big a following yet. But you never know. And that's where becoming confident in what the product or services that you offer and learning how to speak to that in a way that someone's going to be like, heck yeah, that would be great for my audience. Like, I would love to have you come teach, and I'd be happy to give an hour to your audience as well. So one was collaborations, and two was putting yourself out there, having the conversations with your network, and not thinking that you're in a vacuum at home posting TikToks every day and like that's going to fill your retreat, because it might, but it's unlikely.
Yeah. And you have to get ready for some rejection. And that's also, it's gonna hurt. You're gonna get a stomach ache, or you're gonna get that punch in the gut feeling. And then you just go, oh, it's just not for them. Like, I'm just looking for someone that it is. And I wouldn't want someone that's making everything wrong anyway, you know?
Yes.
So
yes.
there is a lot of that. And like the collaboration part is the funnest. I actually like my retreats are all in collaboration, and it's so fun to pull in a body worker that's fantastic that I just found that does lymph massage or something, and then to pull in someone to do live music. Or there's so much beautiful talent and gifts that people are really excited to share. And so that's the beauty of doing events. But even just like doing, this launch I'm doing with Allison Armstrong, or the retreat that I do with Helen Reyes, I love doing that. It's so much more fun than if I were to just put on a whole retreat myself. So the collaboration is such a beautiful part, and it's just way more fun. Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought up the Allison Armstrong project, because I think this is so inspiring. And I mean, for those of you who are listening and don't know, my background is with my own podcast called The Bold Life Movement, and my own brand, and all my coaching historically has lived under that umbrella before I started partnering with Transformation Academy. So I'm someone who, my ears perk up when I hear about a bold move that turns into an amazing opportunity. And this is a perfect example of that. So will you share with the audience like how you got, first of all, who Allison Armstrong is, if they're not already familiar, and how you got to be able to collaborate with her on a program and now a retreat?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Allison is probably my celebrity crush. Like, I love her because she's changed my life. Like, so anything I read of hers, or she's an author, she's a teacher, she's basically studied men for the last 30 years. And she has come up with ways of explaining men and the dynamics between men and women in a way that's so simple. It's like showing you the snowflakes on the window, or you just kind of shift your gaze and you're like, oh my gosh, this has been in front of me my entire life. Why didn't someone explain this to me? And it's just ways of like how men build testosterone and women build estrogen from just puttering and walking around and doing things actually helps us to get into our feminine. There's ways of getting into the feminine, and just even the language of men and women. So if you don't know about her, look her up. She is so phenomenal. And what's beautiful is she's really touched the men's movement as well. Like, men love her, which is a really nice thing for women in relationships, because oftentimes we're doing so much of the personal development and reading about, like, men aren't sitting around reading a relationship book. But when we tell them about the stuff that we're learning from Allison, they're just like, yep, yeah, of course. We're like, this is blowing my mind. Like, how did I not know this? They're like, that's always been, like, we're not that complicated. Yeah, you're super complicated. Like, Allison's figured out a 12-step process of explaining, like, you guys. And if we miss one of them, we just are completely off base. And you'll all, agree with that. Yeah. So anyway, she's great. And so when my brother-in-laws are all doing this course with us, and each one of my sisters were just like, hey, Paige is doing this with Allison. They're like, oh yeah, I like Allison. I'll do it. And that's pretty cool,
Yeah. So, she's really likable and funny, and she takes these situations that men and women often find themselves in partnership, and she explains it in a way that you're like, oh, well, of course he did that then. I didn't realize that was his goal. And he's like, oh, well, of course she acted like that. I didn't realize that was going on inside her, because we're wired so differently.
Totally. Totally. And it's just like freeing. It's so where we stop making each other wrong and seeing each other as misbehaving, hairy women, or beautiful, hairless, overly emotional men that men see as like, why is she so crazy, right? And it's just
Yeah.
and it's not
Yeah.
just, just because she's hormonal. It's like, no, we're gatherers. We are fundamentally see the world in a different way. And I've seen this in so many different ways, like reading the female brain or the male brain, or like studying just psychology or all the stuff that I geek out on. But the way she explains it is just so beautiful. So anyway, I love her, obviously. And I've gone to her events. I've done all her programs. Like, I'm just kind of like way into her. And so, I was talking, whenever I coach about relationships, her teachings come up. And one of my friends just said, well, why don't you do a retreat with Allison? And I was like, what? And then I was like, you know what? She probably has a fee. So maybe I could just hire her to come into my retreat. And it was based actually on the thought of like, how can I fill my retreats easier? Was really a thought, was like, it's that coming back to how do you fill the retreats? And so
Totally.
like, what if I could
You get guest speakers. She's an enticing benefit of the retreat.
right. A lot of people would pay a lot to be able to hang out and ask Allison questions. So then I just reached out and made an offer and said, what's your going rate? Okay, what if we fly you in? What does that look like? And I love Allison's integrity because she's like, you know what, Paige, I have so much information online that people can learn, and it's so good. Like, I've learned that online learning is just as good as if people have to fly in for days and do an event with me to learn this information. So how about people learn that information and then we put on a retreat that will completely blow their minds and change their lives forever? And I'm like, I'm in. Like, I will play with you as long as I can play. Like,
yes.
So I was like, and we play really well together, and it's been really fun to just have these beautiful interactions with such a beautiful soul in the world, So yeah, it's been super fun. And we went into a collaboration, and so it was just one question, and it was just, leading one step through another. And what was beautiful about it too was I knew that if it doesn't work out with Allison, then now I know the process to reach out, and I can really ask anyone to come to my retreats, and I can start getting into a new realm with co-creation. And so that was really empowering for me. Yeah. Thanks for asking about it.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful example of playing what if. Like, what if this author, speaker, teacher, mentor that I've looked up to for years, who has literally been doing this for decades, what if they wanted to work with me? Like, I say this in my TEDx, and I will say it till I'm blue in the face. The answer is always no until you ask. And so you perfectly exemplified that. And I think that so many people could benefit from making, Russell Brunson calls it your dream 100 list, making a list of 100 people that would be like moonshots for you, just such a dream to collaborate with, and then reaching out and being really creative on your outreach. This is something that I have done a lot in my own coaching business and with my podcast, is like, if I have an author or a entrepreneur, someone that I really look up to, I make a very unique gift for them. Often it's a painting or something. Or I make a video in their style. So I'm sort of like parodying them, their YouTube style. And I send it, and I don't ask for anything. It's merely just like this is something to show my appreciation for your work. And it often garners their attention and leads to further connection and opportunity and collaboration. So I hope that inspires people to like get a little creative. Who do you want to work with? What other value and tools do you want to bring to your potential clients? Because the world is really your oyster, and no one is inaccessible anymore.
No, they say that actually Tony Robbins has a game that he does with his plats, I think, or someone does this, where he says, you can have $100,000 if you, within 24 hours, you can have a conversation with Donald Trump or someone. And there's always like 5 people. I mean, it's just amazing how we, within, a few levels of connection, we can get in touch. And now we can basically get through Twitter or email, we can basically get in touch with anyone. Like, of course, there was a barrier to Allison where I called her director, and I got in touch with someone that is not, you can't just email these people, but you can get.
There's a gatekeeper, but go through the gatekeeper.
Yeah. And have an irresistible offer. I love, Kim, how you do that. Because I've been a beneficiary of one of your paintings when we first met, and it just made me so endeared. Like, if you have a creative gift, do what Kim does. I mean, it's so beautiful.
You're so sweet. Yeah, one of my recent guests, Juan, was talking about also when you send an email or you make some sort of outreach, if you get no response, assume they haven't seen it. First of all, right now when we're recording this, it's summertime. People are busy. People are vacationing. They're on the boat. They're on the lake. They're whatever. And often our inboxes are so inundated anyways that they might just not see it. And so follow up. Like, often I respond to emails the 5th time someone has reached out to me because I don't like email. It's not a part of my day.
50,000 unread emails.
I got 50,000, girl. I'm with you. I'm on too many subscription lists.
Yeah, never email me if you want to get in touch with me.
Yes. I literally have trained my friends. I'm like, oh, did you email me? You have to text me and tell me you emailed me.
Totally. Absolutely. That's my rule too. So
yeah,
it's just, there's so many different things we have to get clear. And that's one thing, actually, a pro tip as a coach is really get clear with your clients what their mode of communication is. Because some people never, like, I know someone that has 50 unread texts in their phone every day, and
I know this person.
Leave them. We know this human. If you're listening, we both think that's kind of crazy.
That stresses me out, sir.
Stresses me out.
I love it. Well, Paige, before we wrap up, I would love for you to share any closing thoughts, any words of wisdom or encouragement that you would give to an aspiring coach who's like just getting started.
Well, first of all, thanks for listening. And thank you for having such a beautiful soul to want to coach. I think it's like, that's one of the beautiful things about coaching is the amazing tribe, they're the beautiful people that we get to be around. And it's a excuse to just keep in the learning curve and continue to grow and learn. And so I'm excited for your journey and excited for what you're going to experience and utilize Transformation Academy and souls like Kim and beautiful people that you come across, and really just keep collaborating, keep reaching out. And again, the only thing between you and being a coach is getting your first client. And so if you need to get a coach to do that, if you need to build your confidence, if you need to get a certification, go ahead and do it. But if you know how to change someone's life, then go out and do it. Yeah.
Where can people find you, Paige? Where can they get more of Paige Harris Clark?
Paige 360, Paige 360 is the easiest. I love that short handle, and so I use that a lot. My business is Spiral Up Into the Life That You Love. So thelifethatyouLove.com is my website. And so those are the 2 main things. And then Paige H. Clark or Coach Paige H is on Facebook. So but actually if you go to paige360.com, the Allison Armstrong thing pops up, but if you go under that, you'll find all of my handles to everything if you want to check out my podcast and all the different things that I am involved in. So check that out, and thank you again for having me, Kim.
Yeah, highly recommend that you go and follow Paige. She's always dropping her big gorgeous smile, for those of you who aren't seeing this on video, and just so much inspiration and really brings you back into your heart and makes you feel a sense of peace that who doesn't want peace, right? Like, it's just such a lovely energy to be in Paige's presence. So go follow her, go check out her stuff, see what she's got going on with Allison Armstrong. It's going to be freaking epic. I'm definitely signed up for the July program. So I look forward to that. And I love you so much.
Thank you. Love you too. Thanks again for having me on.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you so much to Paige for joining me on today's show. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you are just finding us and you haven't yet hit that follow button or that subscribe button on your podcast player, please do so. It really helps us to understand if we're reaching you and delivering the best possible content. And we really want to be doing that over the next coming weeks. So we have a ton of incredible interviews lined up. If you enjoyed today's episode, do us a favor, drop us a review and let us know what you loved. Let us know what your takeaways were. And if you want to get more information about what we talked about, go ahead and visit theprofitablecoach.com/003. There you'll get access to Paige's information and any of the other resources that we discussed. And lastly, if you're a brand new coach and you are looking for more support in how to attract your dream clients, then I want you to go ahead and head over to theprofitablecoachpodcast.com/freebie. That's FREEBIE. And there you'll get access to our free mini course, the Life Coach Launch Mini Course, How to Master the Art of Attracting Clients. So again, that's free. You can get it over at theprofitablecoach.com/freebie. I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you on next week's episode.